Thank you, everyone. My name is Qifan Zhang. I'm now a fourth-year PhD student from University of California, Irvine, advised by Professor Zhou Li. So today, the first presentation I'm going to do is on behalf of my collaborator, my friend from Tsinghua University, Beijing, China, Mr. Zhang Li, who is now enjoying his Spring Festival holiday. So I'm the one to take in charge to do the presentation. So today, the first work I'm going to present is published in this year's IEEE Security and Privacy Auckland conference, and the name is TuDoor Attack, which is a new one to explore in DNS cache poisoning. So first, the attack impact for this attack is that we found another poisoning vulnerability for the resolvers with just 1 second. So before we get into DNS cache poisoning, so let's talk about DNS. So I think every one of us in this venue are very familiar with DNS, and DNS is a very fundamental towards the internet structure, and it is widespread use and with a long history. And then in details for DNS, it is iterative. It involves very many parts. For example, we have the name servers, the authority servers, and we have the top level domains, TLD, SLD, and then finally into the name server of the domain itself. And also we have many rows on the way towards our dissolved record. So we have client, we have forwarder, we have recursive resolver, and we have authority server. And also we involve cache mechanisms to speed up the whole, resolution process. And it is also iterative. So for example, if we have example.com to be resolved, we first go to the root server, and then we go to the TLD, and then finally we go to the SLD. If we have a forwarder, so the forward don't do the resolution itself, it just forward to the upstream server for it to be resolved, for the record to be resolved. And so on the way of this resolution process, it is iterative and recursive, and it is primarily over the UDP, which is a DO53, and it has caching. And we also have some mechanisms to ensure the security of the DNS protocol, such as the randomization of source port and transaction ID, the TX ID here. So for takeaway, so since DNS is a cornerstone of the internet, so we have tried to make it as robust as we can for the past few decades. And attackers also have long been trying to manipulate this response by hijacking via like cache poisoning. So here comes our question: what is DNS cache poisoning? So since DNS is mainly over UDP, so attackers want to forge or fake records so that into the resolver's cache. So the resolvers will return the forged records. And for the history of the DNS cache poisoning, so it is many targets for resolvers, and it has on-pass and off-pass scenarios. And also the technique is always like you find a technique to do the attack, and we find a way to do the mitigation, and then we find another attack. So back and forth again. So, but if DNS is compromised, the effect will be severe. So before we introduce our work, so let's go back to see the history of the DNS cache poisoning attack. So the very first version of DNS cache poisoning is a cache pref attack, which happened on 1997, 1 year before my birth. So even older than me. Okay, so thank you. So the first method is like it returns the forged responses from the authority server. So the procedure is very simple. For example, if we have an example.com's name server, but we also attach the records of victim.com, which is what we call out of bailiwick, which means you cannot return the records which is not out of your bailiwick, out of your control. So it is unacceptable. But if you under this attack, it will accept those records. So the cause of this one is lacking data verification, or we say we don't have bailiwick rules for this one. And so the mitigation of this attack, the cache paraf attack, is we introduce a bailiwick rules, which means, for example, if we want the records of the example.com, but it also returns the mybank.com or further the DNS.mybank.account. And in the authority section and the additional section, it is unacceptable, which is called out of bailiwick. We just ignore those records and just take in the in-bailiwick records. So for takeaway for the cache paraf attack is bailiwick checking is integrated to the resolver's implementation, and on-pass attack seems to be impossible since that. But we have another attack, also very famous, which is called Kaminsky attack. So for this one, though we have bailiwick rules, but we still don't have a non-randomized source port, though we have a randomized TX ID. So it is very easy for the attackers to guess out which port they are sending the request towards the resolvers. So the result is in consequence. So the attacker just need to guess the transaction ID, which is 16-bit field, to get the correct transaction ID, and it is very easy to guess out the source port, and finally they can just forge the malicious records into the resolvers within such a short time, which is within 1 second. So this is the second version of DNS cache poison attack, Kaminsky attack. So how to mitigate this problem? So it is still same with the transaction ID. We just randomize the source port, and then we have the 32-bit space to brute force. So it is very hard to brute force for now. Yeah. So takeaway for Kaminsky attack is if we do the port randomization, so it will be difficult to brute force the source port as well as together with the transaction ID. So it seems still another time be difficult to conduct DNS cache poisoning from 2008. But then we come from the third version. So this time it is about fragmentation. So what is fragmentation? So when a query is too large, so we need to, so for one time the packets could not be transmitted with one packet. So we need 2 or more packets to deliver this kind of query. So, but for the very first packet, it is very robust to do the check. But for the following packets, the security will not be so much enhanced. So for the packs in the fragmented second one and the following one, it is very easy to forge. So we can see like we have a very secured first part, but for the following sections, which is like authority section and additional section, it is very easy to do malicious attacks against them because it is not validated. So here is steps to do this fragmentation attack. So the key idea is we just we just spoof the second fragments before the second fragments of the authenticate answers comes, and then we do and then the cache is poisoned. So how to mitigate this one? So we do IP ID randomization. So this is the security enhanced for the second fragments. And also the we're restricting the fragmentation by if we found it is fragmented, we just go to TCP to do the DNS queries. And also we have error methods. For example, we use 020 to do for each resource records to do the validation. So the takeaway for this one is after the fragmentation attack, we do the IP ID randomization, and enforce the fragmentation restrictions on OS kernels, and it seems, again, to be difficult to do the cache avoiding attack since 2013. So then we find another fragment-based attack, which is targeted on forwarders. So which is because forwarder is always easy to attack, and also we also have another attack, which is set DNS attack. So this is published on 2020 CCS, and the list attack is published on 2020 Usenix Security. And so this one is quite severe. So it is the bug is found on Linux kernel, and it uses global ICIP rate limit to guess out the port which is used to query the recursive resolver. So finally, we can forge a packet to poison the cache of the resolvers. So how to mitigate this attack? So we first adapt the ICMP global rate limit, counter the randomization, and also we have some very well-known mechanisms like 020 and DNS-SEC to ensure the security. So we still got another question. So after 20 years, does bailiwick checking work as desired after fixing the cache pref attack? The answer is no. The protocol is safe, but sometimes we have discrepancies among the implementations, so it leads to another attack towards bailiwick, so which is presented in Maginot DNS 2023, Usenix 2023, which I'm very honored to be part of this work. And for this one, the core problem is the initialization for each software. The bailiwick checking rules or initialization is different. So we can just easily try to forge this attack, bypassing the bailiwick rules. So this is one demo of how different about the initialized the bailiwick rules at the initialization stage for example, bind, not, PowerDNS, and unbound software. So the two on the left side, they are not vulnerable. They are vulnerable actually. So if they are marked as red, so they are vulnerable. But for PowerDNS and unbound, they are not vulnerable because they initialize the bailiwick. They initialize the space of the bailiwick as the first queried one, but bind and not, maybe it's too small, but they just initialize with the root server, which means like everything you create for the first time is within bailiwick. So if it is a forged one, for example, you query google.com and they return something like a .NET something, it is out of bailiwick, but it's still taken in because the initialized one, they say it is a root server. So the mitigation of Maginot DNS attack is to aligning the bailiwick checking for the between the forwarders and the recursive resolvers. And finally, yeah, it is resolved. So this one also has some real world impact, and I think it is if you are in OARC 40, I think it is lectured. So it is also being reported by several governments CERT reports, and also be presented at Black Hat USA last year. So we still have a question. The new DNS cache pointing attack still possible after why it is still possible. So because we didn't look into the logic of the DNS response processing procedures. So that's what we do. So in this paper, we first do the systematic analysis of the DNS response processing mechanism, and we just expose all potential threats. So here is our work. So for TuDoor Attack, the name of the TuDoor Attack, because for the Great Wars, you may have some like side doors for the soldiers to come to fight with the enemies. but sometimes the enemies can use this kind of door to easily bypass the Great Wars. Like this TuDoor is kind of like a mechanism on the Great War. So the enemies can utilize this kind of Great War, just like the attackers can use the logic vulnerabilities within the DNS mechanism. So here is what we do. For the attack targets, it is mainly about the resolvers, but it is also, we also include the stop resolvers, the forwarders, and the recursive resolvers. And for the threat model, we identify the target resolvers and triggering different vulnerabilities and also conduct attack. So here is the finite state machine, the FSM. We curved for the, we draw for the, for a typical DNS resolution process. So as you can see, the black one is a very normal DNS resolution process, and the green arrows, the green lines here is the safe state transition, which means like at some kind of stage, if the resolution process is failed or timed out due to some kind of reason, so it goes back to the initial state to be ready for the next state. So it is normal, but for the red lines, red dotted lines here, they are malicious. They are vulnerable state transitions, which means if you do this, it may lead to some kind of something what you don't want to happen. So this is the malicious stuff. So so for this finite state machine map, so we investigated 28 DNS software, and including 8 resolvers, 10 forwarders, 6 stop resolvers, and 4 programming libraries, such as like Go language DNS. So we looked into the details of those malicious or vulnerable state transitions. So for the red line, it is vulnerable. So we can see for each subgraph, it is about one kind of DNS software. And finally, we investigate all the DNS resolvers and some libraries, and we find 24 out of 28 software or libraries are vulnerable. And we also scanned the public resolvers, and we found 18 out of 42 are vulnerable. So the vulnerable means it may lead to cache poisoning, or denial of service, or resource consumption by utilizing this kind of vulnerability transitions. And finally, we find attack state, this attack, the TuDoor attack. So what is TuDoor attack? So by large, it's like we can easily guess the source port, which used by the resolver to query the benign name server. And then we combine with, is power off? Okay. So combine with the transaction ID guessing. So finally, we can spoof or fake a response on behalf of the real name server. So how could we? So the core part is guessing the source port. So we just keep sending queries to the resolvers one by one, and finally, if we guess the port which is the resolver used to query the authority name server, it will just send another query towards our attacker control domain. So then we finally know which port it is, and finally we guess the transaction ID with within the 16-bit space, and finally we can forge the response into the DNS resolver. And we just also do the scanning with the XMAP, and we found like 23.1 out of 1.8 million resolvers are vulnerable. And also we got 33 CVEs, and it is affected by Bind9, Not, and Microsoft, and it is referred by RFC as 9520. And the root cause is a poor implementation for failing to consider the corner cases. And the mitigation is the resolvers should avoid to respond to the non-53 ports for the query. So, and also reservers should await a time window for promising normal responses. So thank you. So any questions?
Yannis Labro with VeriSign. This is fascinating work. I have a question about kind of the process to identify the vulnerabilities. In the TuDoor paper, you mentioned that, and you mentioned it here, you went through 28 mainstream DNS server software. You used the word reverse engineered effectively in the paper. You inspected the code, the source code, and so on. I'm wondering, this is a massive undertaking, given the number of software that you looked into. Did you use any symbolic execution tools? Did you do static analysis? I mean, the scale is very impressive of what you try to do.
Okay, thank you. So for this, so the answer is yes and no. So yes is the third work I'm going to present, the third work in this session. So we got some behaviors, some evidence, use my the resolver fuzzing tool. And then Xiangli just did like manual investigation for all the softwares. So the yes part is we got some automatic tools to find the clues, but no is for the software itself. We just manually go through them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you use any LLMs to look through the code?
Sorry?
Did you use any large language models against
No,
the code?
no. Xiangli is not a big fan of LLM. I am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Shumon from Salesforce. Good research, thank you. So there's a protocol mechanism in DNS called cookies, which provides at least 64 bits of entropy. So if everyone were using that, this would be another possible way to mitigate these kind of attacks, right? Because you wouldn't only be able to guess the source port and the transaction ID. So should we be I mean, you did synthetic tests, right? You didn't observe queries from actual resolvers in the field on whether or not they were using cookies, right?
Actually, for this, as far as I know, this work we didn't consider about DNS cookies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's
DNS
something.
Is definitely some way to mitigate this problem. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then the three classes of vulnerability you identified was one, cache poisoning, and if I remember, resource consumption and DOS, right?
Yeah, the DNS.
And so the cache poisoning effectively would have been mitigated if DNSSEC were widely deployed, right? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.